So, if at first you do not succeed, House Democrats looking at other ways to boot Donald Trump off the ballot after the Supreme smacked down Colorado's attempt and a unanimous 9-0 ruling. Take a listen to what Jamie Raskin, Democrat Maryland, is plotting already.
The Supreme Court punted and said it's up to Congress to act, and so I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
So the ink wasn't even dry and that came out. Yep. Some in the media not taking the Trump ruling very well. Keith Olbermann calling for the court to be dissolved. Other pundits are melting down like Chernobyl.
Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong. They're not doing their job on a lot of these big issues.
He has now once again been given a rubber to put on and walk through the pool. Yes, you heard me.
It just goes against what our judicial system should be about.
But I can't make heads or tails, frankly, out of the concurring opinions any more than I can make heads or tails out of the majority opinion. It's just, it was just all shoddy legal work all around by all the justices.
So there you have it. Judge, to you, I wonder what Maine and Colorado tell us tonight, if anything, after this ruling.
It'll be very interesting to look at the numbers in Maine and Colorado. That's a very good question.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to show that the people in this country are used to democracy. They are not used to people trying to suppress votes, which was an actual quote from one of those states. I think it was Maine or Illinois. And they're not used to people in Congress who've been elected by them saying to them, we want to make sure that you don't vote for this man. I mean, they're even creating a disservice. That's the irony of it all, to the people who voted for them. I'm talking about Raskin, Wasserman Schultz, and Swalwell. I mean, you know, Raskin is the one who apparently questioned the electors in the 2016 election. Oh, yeah, and then Deborah Wasserman Schultz had to give up the DNC.
They came up with this idea in 2022, actually.
2022, but you've got all of these people who've had problems who are now saying, look, we don't want this guy on the ballot, so what we're going to do is we're going to bypass Section 3 of Article 14, and we're going to say, we're going to pass a law in Congress to say that Donald Trump, we're going to say, is not allowed to be on the ballot. But the problem is there is no underlying conviction for insurrection. They had a chance after January 6th to do it, and they did not do it.
This case is over. I agree with you on that. Dana, you and I were on the air yesterday when this happened. And if you look at the Raskin soundbite, the timestamp is burned in there. Yeah. It's 12:06 Eastern Time. It was an hour and 5 minutes after the ruling came out.
Bill, they call this fill-in-the-blank activism.
I see.
They were ready to go, and they knew what they were doing. Harold Ford Jr. said this kind of thing would be a waste of time. He said that yesterday on our show. Democrats want to run on Trump is trying to destroy our institutions and our democracy. Well, they are actually saying, let's just blow up all the institutions and the democracy. And remember that Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona very bravely, courageously saved the filibuster in the Senate. And how did she pay for it? The Democrats ran her out of town. She announced today she will not run for re-election. There won't be a three-way race in Arizona. That probably makes Jessica Tarlov very happy as she sits there and smiles over there, because it gives the Democrats maybe a better chance of winning that seat if they split the vote.
Jesse, there are 3 liberal justices on the court, and they did vote with their colleagues.
Jackson, she didn't know what a woman was. The Duff didn't care, but now she knows what the 14th Amendment is, and they're mad. Doesn't make any sense to me, Bill. I remember at one point I was upset with the Supreme Court decision when they wouldn't take Trump's challenge to the 2020 election. And as a self-appointed constitutional scholar, I thought Trump had standing. But when the decision came down, I accepted it because that was the end of the line. This apparently isn't the end of the line. Keith Olbermann wants to dissolve the court like he dissolved his own career. You cannot say you're going to save democracy over and over and over again, blow up the court, and then, like Raskin, try to create some rule that if Trump wins, he's not allowed to take the Oval. He's in the minority, Bill. He can't even get anything out of committee. There's nothing going on there. He's peacocking to make his stupid base think there's some silver bullet that has something besides to do with the votes. This is going to be about votes instead of judges this election, and the left's terrified.
You're still going to have a ruling on immunity that I predict will come on July 1st, perhaps. It's a Monday, or it's pretty close to that. Andy McCarthy tells me that that's a pretty tough case for Trump to win. I don't know if McCarthy's ever been wrong, but we'll see about it on this time. Maybe we need to save the tape, Jessica, and roll it back for all those who believe that the court should be vacated.
Yeah. Keith Olbermann does not speak for the party. And
Yes, he does.
Okay. And Michael Moore does too, right? We don't see him until every 4 years, and then he comes out and says terrible things about Democrats, and then he disappears, and then he comes out again. What I'm confused about, and I have been consistent on this, roll the tape, I want Trump on the ballot because you want it to be as democratic as possible. That doesn't mean necessarily that the Colorado Supreme Court didn't have a case, right, to consider, that their ruling doesn't mean anything. But I obviously want people to, well,
Clearly
there are
they didn't-
people who
they didn't have a
disagree with
case.
that. Well, they had a
Sign
bench
up.
trial.
Okay.
I understand that the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. I'm just saying there was a bench trial, and then it went to the Supreme Court in Colorado. It was a 4-3 decision there. It wasn't like a unanimous. Anyway, but what Jamie Raskin is doing is what the justices asked him to do. They said this is Congress that makes the decision. So that is what's going to happen. And this argument that Democrats are relying on the courts to win is so bizarre to me, considering what happened in 2020. And I hate to rehash, I don't really hate to rehash this. I love to rehash this. Donald Trump called for recounts everywhere. He got his recounts. Then he continued to lose. He had over 6.
So did Raskin.
Stop it. They are not
so
comparable.
Did Gore.
There were over
So did a lot
60.
of Democrats.
You're telling me that what Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and everyone else who's in trouble.
Them, but
It's not about hating.
We shan't relitigate at the moment.
Disenfranchising voters.
Got it. We shan't litigate
which Donald
at the
Trump was
moment.
No, but I
happy
want
to
to say one thing.
Make it quick.
The court just said that Congress has the power to do
Is
this.
Jamie Raskin not in Congress?
But wait a minute. We know he can't even get it out of committee.
Not gonna
But
happen.
in
Real
addition
quick.
to that, Section 3 was drafted to ensure an enduring union, not to separate us. And they still need to have the ability to decide whether or not there's been an insurrection. Donald Trump has never been charged nor convicted of insurrection. So we're going to do two things, neither of which will happen before this thing can even be issued.
And I've got important stuff to get to, okay? You allow me?
Yes.
The president is recruiting the Cookie Monster. And he's going to wage his war on shrinkflation, and you are about to hear about that.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.